I don't mean to scare you, but the same people that are always trying to scare you, you know, it's like they can deal with something if it affects multiple pieces. Like this one little piece could just be one out of like 30 or 40 different things, which is the reason why climate change is a scam, you know? But you can feel it. And people who can't feel it are telling you that you're crazy, right? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? You don't believe in carbon emissions and this is not like, like they gotta convince you. But I'm not condemning them for being part of a conspiracy to dim the sun. You know what I mean? I'm just like, it's not advisable because I just have this feeling that this is the scam. But they're like, oh, you must be just one of those people, like, you know, you like, and then they understand all these other things about you supposedly. You know, like, now you want to, you know, bomb Iran, and now it's this and that. Stay on subject. Well, anyways, I'll show you another one of those, you know, conspiracy videos and, you know, make up your mind. But the thing is that those people like that you can't force a horse to drink water. You know what I mean? You can show them the water. That's it. They won't drink it. So anyways, make up your own fucking mind. And, you know, affording that you have the same ability that I do to just be patient, you know, and see if there is no basis to what they're saying, basically. And just, you know, like their favorite word is debunk, everything debunk. That's been debunked. All that stuff has been proven false. All those conspiracies have been proven to be debunked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, why are you generalizing? Like, I've never heard you speak specifically directly to any one thing. It's just like you're a lockdowner. You just lock down conversations. You just want to shut it off. You just want to wall yourself in, stop visiting relatives, like stop teaching your vocation to, you know, like the boomers who don't, you know, really teach their vocation, like they're like an apprentice. Like, oh, it's already been decided that you're an asshole for trying to make me do the same thing you want to do. But the fact of the matter is that it's not really like that. It's been portrayed in, like, you know, as like, that's like, for like, you know, not letting them make their own choice. Thing about it is, that's kind of pre-industrial, or like today there is supposedly a lot more choices, and then you know, certain things can become obsolete, and you don't really supposed to know better. But then if you are in something that they could be interested in, you still won't teach them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because they're controlled by something else. It's like they don't work for family anymore. They work for something else, like Molech or something like that. And that's kind of post-industrial. Anyway, here we go. Because you can never imagine that people would think, oh, that's a good idea. You know, people would want, you know, to combat climate change by dimming the sun, you know, or something. Like, what the fuck? Like, oh, and we're getting together and we're exploring this. Like, people are actually exploring this and talking about, like, it's like a good idea. Like, yeah, why not? You know, I mean, what the fuck?
This week, Britain's enemies could dim the sun and weaponize the weather. Ministers are preparing for a scenario in which a hostile foreign power could weaponize sun-dimming technology, the Telegraph can disclose. A ministerial letter, as seen by the Telegraph, states the government wants to understand the risks of an independent or third-party actor deploying technologies to reflect sunlight away from the Earth. Imagine. Experts said these third-party actors could include countries taking drastic action to lower their carbon emissions, or hostile nations such as, of course, Russia, using solar energy to orchestrate an environmental disaster against their enemies. It'd be like trying to use defoliants in Vietnam with Monsanto's help. Solar engineering, also known as solar radiation modification, seeks to limit global warming by reducing the amount of sunlight that reaches the Earth. One of the most researched techniques involves shooting aerosols into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight back into space. In the letter, Kerry McCarthy, the climate minister, writes, "The UK is a long-standing leader on climate action and an active international collaborator in scientific research." You heard them say it themselves, they're collaborators. The government recognizes the need to understand the risks and impacts of solar radiation modification approaches that could be deployed by an independent or third-party actor. Robust scientific evidence is essential for informing responsible and inclusive governance. Now let's travel all the way back to April. British scientists given £50 million to explore sun dimming technologies. Good night, everybody. The government is giving a team of British scientists £50 million to research techniques to dim the sun in order to tackle the worst consequences of climate change. As we've joked many times before, the years change, but the faces, and they may change as well. But you can swap them out and the agenda rolls ahead. Can you believe what Russia's going to do? We're doing it. One from Off
But it's a
Guardian,
good thing,
James,
though.
before
It's a
I
good
throw
thing.
it back to you. They're warning us about
When they can't deny it
weaponizing the
anymore,
weather
now it's
because
a
they
good
are
thing.
weaponizing the weather. And they know that, unfortunately, most dum-dums will just go, Russia did it.
Hence,
James.
you could feel it's a
You know,
scam.
in a way, James, you almost have to feel sorry for the propagandists because they are attempting to thread the needle on this insoluble problem. They
Like, if you don't have no intuition, then you just
simultaneously
wait for a fact.
introduce the concept of
You're waiting for the
geoengineering
facts.
and chemtrail spraying and all of
But
this
if
to
you
the
have
public
intuition
and
freaking
saying that it's a good thing
like a little
and
common sense,
it's
you would be
wonderful.
like,
But at the
this shit
same
feels
time,
like some rotten
they have to
common.
keep the demonization of people who are
oh,
against
you don't
that
have the
technology.
facts.
So how are we going to do this?
You don't-
Obviously,
you
for
don't have no
decades, they have just pretended it
you
didn't
don't
exist,
feel
and you're
that
all
shit.
crazy. But
You don't have
that
no
is changing,
intuition.
right? They have to sort of open the kimono a little
is a
bit on
good
this story.
thing.
So how do they do this? And then, so we're seeing these ridiculous logical pretzel knots being tied by the
You're gonna be, like,
propagandists at the moment.
freaking out,
where,
like,
hey, the British scientists have come up with this awesome new idea to help solve climate change, and at the same time, Russia is trying to
Actually,
dim
I
the
think
sun.
it's
Oh
like
my
both
God.
sides are gonna
Bill
get
Gates is
everybody
trying to dim the
killed.
sun.
Like
Yay, Russia is trying
they're
to dim
gonna
the
get
sun.
us all
Oh my
killed,
God.
but they're
I mean,
panicking
it is
saying that we're
bizarre.
gonna get
And
them
I've
all
noticed
killed.
this about this issue
But
in
they
particular
just,
for many years.
you know,
I had a
wanna get you with
podcast way
education.
back,
You know what I mean?
15 years ago or 17 years
They
ago,
have,
something, where I was talking about
to wait for
the,
approvals,
this,
and then
the sort of inevitable
they
progression
call
of
it
so many
waiting
of these
for,
conspiracy realities. It doesn't exist.
for
It
the
doesn't
facts.
exist. It doesn't exist. You're crazy. It doesn't exist.
I don't know.
To it exists, and it's a good thing that it exists.
Yeah,
And
see?
if you don't like it, you're crazy.
I didn't even watch this part.
So I think we're seeing some.
I know the same
variant
shit
of
that
but it
look,
is
look. I didn't even watch that far when he said that shit about it's a good thing. See, we're getting our shit is like clinking up on like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. It's not. How could it be fake when you can have the same feeling, like the same thing? Like first they denied it, and then they said, "Oh well, it was a good thing." Then changed because you. Hold on a second.